first and foremost, the one thing I really want to praise the show on, and I think I saw some of the interviews last week, is the way they're doing Aegon the Second. Because in the books, we don't really get that much information on Aegon the Second, right? Because it's really so much more black focused and so much more focused on Alicent than it is like Aegon. So like we don't really honestly actually know a ton about his personality and stuff. I mean, in the books, he actually looks like a tank. And so they have a smaller sort of thing here. And I really appreciate what the actor who plays him said. You know, he said, I don't want to be another Joffrey. You know, I didn't want to go that route of being this sort of like maniacal leader. And so I think that was one of the things I really appreciated last week, where they said, hey, we're going to make him a likable character, right? Where he's actually like, maybe we should give these people their sheep back. Like they came all this way. We should give them their, we need the help of the small folk. And he was getting it. And then Otto was kind of steering him in the direction he ended up steering him in. And so now to see him like actually grieving over his son and making the decisions he's making, like you can, sympathize with the guy. I mean, okay, I get it. I understand what he's doing. I understand why he's making those decisions. And even if he does come across as a little brash or like angry, it's like, put yourself in his shoes. So it's not like Joffrey, right? Where Joffrey was just like a pure evil dude. And I was actually watching this and I have it in my notes. I might hate Criston Cole more than Joffrey. Dude.
Straight up. Yes. Yes. Agreed.
because at least Joffrey was who he was, right?
Yeah.
Joffrey was just sort of, he's just an evil guy. And then Ramsay, the same thing, right? You get those villains as they progress.
Sure. Yeah.
And Criston Cole to me is now starting to feel a little bit like actually somebody who I think is honestly my favorite villain of another series. He's kind of feeling a little bit Umbridge like to me.
Oh, dude.
Dolores Umbridge of Harry Potter, right?
What?
Because
someone you can hate. You hate him.
Right. You hate him because they sort of act like priestly, right? That's the argument about them, where, I mean, this guy is breaking all the rules, but then when he acts the way he acts, it's almost like believing. It's not even like Cersei or Tyr, like some of the other players in the Game of Thrones where you can tell they're putting on a show. I mean, he'd straight up like, it feels like he's just bipolar. I mean, I don't know, switching back and forth and legitimately believes it.
Yeah, dude, he's guilty as all get out, man. This guy, he's compromised. He's a guy, you rage at the screen. I was raging the whole time. I was like, dude, F you, Sir Criston Cole, dude. Like you are at the core of all this. What is wrong with you? And the fact, I think what really just really got to me was Sir Eric when he sends him and he's calling him out. It's like, dude, what? You're in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in there sinning. I mean, absolutely committing sin.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and then he sort of then when to me it was when he challenged Sir Eric on his cloak, like, it's your cloak is dirty. We wouldn't be in this mess if you weren't, getting the Haktua, spit on that thing from freaking Alice Hightower. I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's the whole reason we're in this situation. And then he calls him out. He's like, "Where were you?" Yeah. Exactly. Where were you?
Where we all saw where he was at. Jiminy Christmas. I mean, that's the thing. I never thought that, in reading the book, like you said, they bring these characters to life in such a way. There's so many more little dynamics and stuff, especially with the Aegon stuff. And then now with Sir Criston Cole. And I just, it kind of floors me. I didn't like him when I originally was reading. I was like, this guy's gonna be a problem, but I really don't like him. I mean, I'm sure you guys have already talked about, but going back to like season 1 with like Rhaenyra and stuff, like, oh, it was a problem because the princess showed up and wanted a piece or whatever. Right. And now, hey, no worries. It's just,
I mean, this dude's, I don't know that anyone's ever taken like being turned down more crazy than this guy.
Yeah, for sure. He's gone off the deep end. And then now, I mean, and again, it's, dude, what the other big thing with this is there's so many of these different little dynamics because Otto Hightower at the end of this episode, you really see like the old man's out and you see this young, angry blood in there, these two youngsters together, and it's all going to go to hell. It's everybody should know going forward. That was an awesome episode, but the moments that Matt was talking about earlier where they're 5-star, they're coming. They're gonna be next episode and the episode after that. Like it's all gonna just unfold here, go crazy. But yeah, Sir Criston Cole is a freaking nut job, and I hate
and you can see on both sides the war sort of slipping out of control on both like Rhaenyra's side and even if you want to say Aegon's side at this point, right? Since Alicent's actually you can see her grasp of power being a little bit less, but maybe with her manipulating Criston Cole and then manipulating Aegon, we'll get to see that side of the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, this episode did back and forth between both sides. It was excellent. So I'm just gonna start going through some notes here and we'll talk kind of moments. So I said opening scene, I just have pure chaos. Like you can tell the small folk know something big happened. And then we find out later that it was, it was the kids, or it was they ended up knowing that it was the thing. We got some shots of Criston Cole. He totally, you could see on the look of his face being like, I messed up.
Yep.
I messed up. Aegon rightfully upset. And then I wrote down, good God, the score is amazing. This might be the best scored episode of all of Game of Thrones. And I mean, there are some amazing, like even the battle at Winterfell, like the theme when the Night King is coming and Arya's chasing him down, like, and Jon is standing, like that's one of the coolest themes in all of Game of Thrones, whether you like season 8 or not. But man, this episode, it was just scored amazing. Like there were so many actually quiet moments where there's no dialogue and the music and the cinematography just took over. And I was like, wow. I mean, I had to take some notes of it.
Yeah, can I just real quick? Can I hop in on one point? Like the like Helena, when they're doing the whole procession with her child, right? It's like like you said, the music underneath that is there's not a lot. There's a lot of crowd noise and there's all this stuff happening and building around it, and she's freaking out and everything. And I was like, oh my God, this is just awful all around.
Straight up. I legitimately, when I saw the stitches on the kid's neck, I was like,
this show,
I'm telling you,
does that hold back.
As straight up, I have in my notes, and I had to look away because I was like, oh God, I don't know. When they get stuck in the mud, I was like, his head's gonna roll off.
I know.
I was like, they're trying to push the thing, and I was like, it would just be the most Game of Thrones thing ever to have this like poor dead kid's head just like roll up, because you saw the stitches. I was like, thankfully they didn't do it. I was like,
but you know why? Why did you have that anxiety? You had that anxiety because that's
Game of Thrones.
That's the shit they'll do. It's and it's brilliant because they'll sometimes do it and then sometimes they won't. And so you're like, you got. I mean, either way, it was so freaking dramatic. And I mean, I wrote down in my notes, by the way, at the start of this, just to go ahead and I just said Team Green again. I was like, this makes the pendulum swing back, and you're like, you know what? F you blacks. I mean, it's Team Green now, baby.
And they do, and I do think they've done a good job with the show so far. I mean, every episode it is a pendulum. It swings back and forth, and I think that's one of the best things where I said with the way they're making Aegon likable, and I really thought that he's, because in the books Aegon it feels, in Fire and Blood and World of Ice and Fire, Aegon feels like an afterthought, because the whole deal is Alicent and Rhaenyra and Daemon, because Daemon Targaryen is like George R. R. Martin's favorite character. So he gets a ton of focus and attention in the books, where Aegon actually kind of doesn't. He's really kind of left to the side in the books, and he's just sort of like, he's there and things are happening around him, but you never really get a ton of insight on him. So I love the way they're really expanding on his character. So Aegon is freaking out, asking everyone what's going on in that council room, and I thought that scene was amazing and again, really good for his character. Where were you, Criston Cole? He said a bed. So I mean, he didn't technically lie. He was in a bed. That's
God. It's so, I mean, Chris, it's so with your mother. I mean, like that's where I was at. I was guarding
forsaking my vows, and then later criticizing other Kingsguard members
and getting them killed. By the way, what an asset! Like he sends out, like what a stupid idea. I mean, obviously, well, it's almost successful. I mean, actually, there's a little brilliance to Sir Criston Cole, which makes you hate him because you're like, well, it's actually kind of a good idea, but it's also totally terrible because they're brothers, and this is just a terrible situation. But yeah, he's a dude that whole moment when he's going the chaos there at the small council, and Sir Criston's looking like, I mean, what, like the biggest doofus in the world. and then he just starts throwing shade at everybody else, and I just can't stomach him anymore. I mean, that was the problem. If he weren't associated with the Greens, I'd almost be more like pro Green. And as Matt knows, I kind of play devil's advocate and like to, I like to lean Green a little bit. I like Allison. I think she's pretty cool. But anyways, now I can't stand him. I really, as you see it unfold, I really can't stand him. And the thing, you're right, is that Aegon II is literally, we had no clue what, like in season 1, it was shocking the stuff that he was up to and who he was, and that he wasn't really worthy of being this leader. And dude, it's the same thing that like Otto has done to all of these parents. They make all of their children come to court, step into these roles, go for power, all this stuff. And so it's like Aegon at some point in the last episode was like, now it's my turn. I can do this. What my father didn't do for me, I will do for my son. I will bring him here to the small council. He will ride on the back of a Lannister around and pretend, he'll play and have a good time. And they kill his son. Yeah. I mean, I go crazy. He should rage. He should go nuts.